Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope all of you are in a great condition. Today, I would like to present about levels of error. This is submitted to fulfill contrastive and error analysis final examination. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Aga Windaryanti. My student identity number is 8820319173. I'm at the 6th semester of English Education Department, Pancasakti University, with lecturer Mr. Subadar MP. Okay, without the further ado, let's start the presentation. The classification of errors. In this chapter, we focus on the classification of errors. We do so by reference to three criteria: modality, medium, and level. Modality refers to whether the learner's behavior was receptive or passive or productive. Medium indicates whether the language produced or received was spoken or written. Level means what level of language the learner was operating at the time he or she earned. We recognize these three levels of language. They are: first, the level of substance; the second, text; and the third one is discourse. Next is the classificatory system of errors with 12 categories. As you can see on the screen, there are three systems of errors, with each of them consists of 4 categories. The first one is substance errors, the second one is text errors, and the third one is discourse errors. Okay, let's start with the substance errors. Substance errors consist of errors in encoding in speaking or mispronunciation, errors in encoding in writing or misspellings, errors in decoding in hearing or misperception, errors in decoding in reading or miscues. Next is text errors. This consists of errors in composing spoken text or misspeaking, errors in composing written text or miswriting, errors in understanding spoken text or mishearing, errors in understanding written text or misreading. The last one is discourse errors. It is consists of errors in formulating spoken discourse or misrepresenting, errors in formulating written discourse or miscomposing, errors in processing spoken discourse or misconstrual, and the last one is errors in processing written discourse or misinterpretation. As you can see, every term it begins with mis because it's about errors like mispronunciation, misspeaking, and misrepresenting. Okay, substance errors. It's about misspelling. What is misspellings? A misspelling or MS is a substance level correction error. There are other sort of substance errors besides misspellings that involve writing. They are referred to as mechanical errors. There are 4 kinds. First, punctuation errors. It means overuse of the exclamation, misordering of closing inverted commas. The second one is typographic errors. It means people who are normally, when using a pen, good spellers, might be poor typists and their writing is full of typos. The third one is dyslexic errors. Park with the last letter T for park with the last letter K is a misselection from 2 letters that can represent the same sound K in English. And 2 for 2 is a misordering. The fourth one is confusables. Carney gives the amusing example to marry a deposed woman and observes that these are lexical errors involving confusion between similar sounding morphemes and words. 1994, page 83. How about misspellings proper? Misspellings, as such, violate certain conventions for representing phonemes by means of graphemes. A grapheme, the term was coined by Baudouin de Courtney in 1901, is a feature of written expression that so, F, double F, and then PH, F, and G are graphemes which represent the phonemes F in English. X represent the sound sequence, as in box. Okay, next is there are two broad categories of misspellings. One, mispronunciation errors. It means there were those mispronunciations that were in a sense committed before pen paper. They are the result of the mispronunciation of the EL to target sound called mispronunciations. Okay, example, English is pronounced S. So zoo is spelled su or su. Okay, number 2 is written misencodings. Since misspellings do not reflect mispronunciation, we call these misencodings. Okay, mispronunciation. Mispronunciations, as we have seen, can trigger misspellings, but they are a category of medium errors in their own right. There are errors in encoding at the productive phonological level when speaking a foreign language. Here, speaking means speaking spontaneously or from memory and not reading aloud from a written text. Errors arising in the second situation, defined as oral reading errors made when reading a passage of prose, are miscues. Author 1980, page 116. Pronunciation errors are of three broad types: segmental, combinatorial, and suprasegmental. Text errors. The term text is sometimes used to refer exclusively to a unit of written language larger than the sentence, for which paragraph might be a suitable term. Text errors arise from ignorance and misapplication of the lexicogrammatical rules of the language, including how these rules are exploited to achieve texture. Lexical errors. Thirdly, lexis has begun to take a central role in language study. There are a number of reasons of this. First, the boundaries between lexis and grammar are now seen to be less clear-cut than was assumed. Secondly, learners themselves believe that vocabulary is very important in language learning, sometimes equating a language with its vocabulary. Thirdly, for some learner groups, lexical errors are the most frequent category of error. Fourthly, native speakers consider the lexical errors in learners' IL or international language to be more disruptive and irritating than other types. Okay, next one is classifying lexical errors. Formal errors of lexis. Formal miselection. These are pairs of triples of words that look and sound similar. Parasite or patricide, accessory or accessory. Lover 1992 identifies 6 ways in which pairs of syn forms can be similar. They can first have the same number of syllables, second have the same stress pattern, third be of the same word class, fourth have the same initial part, fifth have some phonemes in common, and the sixth have phonemes with shared features. Okay, the next is misformations. These are errors that produce words that are non-existent in the foreign language. Last one is distortions. These are the intralingual errors of form created without resource to L1 resources. The outcomes are forms non-existent in the target language. Semantic errors in lexis. There are two main types. The first, confusion of sense relations. Lexicologists describe vocabulary in terms of lexical system, reflecting the meaning relations existing between words. Lexicosemantic clusterings are referred to as lexical fields. The second is collocational errors. Collocational are the other words any particular word normally keeps company with. The question is not which words could substitute for this word, but which words typically precede and follow it. There are 3 degrees of collocation. First, semantically determined word selection. It is right to say crook stick, but not crook ear, because in the word as we know it, ears cannot literally be crooked. Next, there are combinations with statistically weighted differences. We can say that an army has suffered big losses, but heavy losses is preferred. Finally, there are arbitrary combinations. We make an attempt and have a try, but can neither make a try nor have an attempt, despite the synonym of attempt or try. Grammar errors. Grammar errors, it means morphology errors. It means grammar has traditionally been discussed in terms of morphology and syntax. The former handling word structure, the latter handling structures larger than the word. It is therefore not surprising that we touched on some aspects of morphology when discussing lexical errors. There are 5 lexical word types in English: noun, verb, adjective, adverb, and preposition. These errors are basic but persistent, regularly resurfacing even in the English foreign language writing of PhD students. The most important are third singular s, plural s, past tense ed, and progressive ing. One might have including apostrophe s in this list were it not for the fact that its use is so rare among English native speakers. Even educated ones, Garrett and Austin 1993, that it is no longer legitimate to claim that it is part of the canon. Syntax errors. These are errors that affect text larger than the word, namely phrase, clause, sentence, and ultimately paragraphs. Okay, number 1 is phrase structure errors. Until recently, linguists assumed there were as many phrase types as there were lexical word types: noun phrases, phrases, adjective phrases, adverb phrases, and preposition phrases. Okay, number 2 is clause errors. These involve the ways in which phrases themselves will formed operate in clauses. Number 3 is sentence errors. These involve the selection and combination of clauses into larger units. Number 4, inter-sentence error or cohesion. Halliday and Hassan, 1976, identify 5 types of cohesive link operating in the upper reaches of text structure: reference, substitution, ellipsis, conjunction, and lexical cohesion. Discourse errors. Coherence. There are 3 sorts of coherence in fact. First, topical coherence. Topical coherence refers to the need for the components of a discourse to be relevant to its general topic or goal. Where a discourse contains irrelevant preposition or moves, it loses coherence. The second one is relational coherence. Relational coherence refers to the requirement for the preposition constituting a discourse to be related to each other. The third one is sequential coherence. Sequential coherence refers to the need for constitutive preposition to be arranged in some effective order. Okay, the next one is pragmatic errors. We use the label pragmatic error or infelicity to refer to this. Since they involve putting linguistic knowledge into practice, we call them pragmalinguistic deviations. Unlike text errors, they arise whenever speakers misencode or hearers misdecode a message, not to determine of its meaning, but to determine of its pragmatic force. That is, what speech act it is intended to provoke or what rhetorical force it should carry. For example, if a German says to an English waiter, "Bring me a beer," his utterance will be taken as a command rather than as a request, and this will give offense. Receptive errors. For example, an immigrant being interviewed by a British social worker was asked, "Where do you live?" which, as the one-word reply, Walsall, shows, was misinterpreted or misconstrued as a curious inquiry about the immigrant's local education, whereas it was intended as a formal inquiry about his address. The example above is the third source of misunderstanding identified in Bremer, Bruder, Robert, Simonot, and Tester, namely pragmatic and situational problems, is really a source of misinterpretation. It is significant that the examples we have been examining of receptive error fall into two categories, misreadings and mishearings. Clearly, the expert need more research in both types of setting. Okay, how about the conclusion? Conclusions are first, levels of error focus on the classification of errors by reference to three criteria, which are modality, medium, and level. The level itself recognizes these three levels of language. They are the level of substance, text, and discourse. Each of them consists of 4 errors with the 12 categories number. Next, in misspelling, there are 4 kinds of mechanical error: punctuation error, typographic errors, dialects error, and confusables with the 2 broad categories, which are mispronunciation errors and written misencodings. Mispronunciations can trigger misspellings, but they are a category of medium errors. They are errors in encoding at the productive phonological level when speaking a foreign language. Here, speaking means speaking spontaneously or from memory and not reading aloud from a written text. Text error can be seen partly from the lexical, semantic, grammar, syntax, discourse, pragmatic, and receptive errors. All these errors are depend respectively on factors that can be seen on each one of them, so that the errors shall then be solved and do not create any misinterpretation or misconception. Okay, that's it about my presentation, levels of error. Then I hope all of you are really enjoyed with my presentation, and thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.